The darkness of space twisted and bent as massive ships appeared from nowhere. One by one, thousands of vessels dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each ship was the size of a small city, their hulls gleaming with metal that had never known defeat. Admiral Kethvar stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fist of Dominion. Through the massive viewing window, he watched as more ships continued to arrive, 50,000 warships in total, the largest invasion force in the history of the Zephyrian Empire. Behind him, his officers worked at their stations, their scaled, hands moving across glowing controls. "Report!" Kethvar commanded, his voice echoing through the bridge. "All fleets have arrived, Admiral," replied his second-in-command, Commander Thessica. 50,000 ships ready for battle. No enemy vessels detected. The target world shows no sign of advanced defenses. Kethvar nodded. This was how it always went. They would arrive, the primitive species would see their overwhelming force, and surrender would follow within hours, sometimes within minutes. It had happened on 847 worlds. Today would make 848. He walked to his command chair, a throne-like seat made from the bones of some ancient creature. On the armrest, a holographic display showed the blue and green planet ahead of them. Earth. Such a small, insignificant world. The intelligence report said the humans had barely left their own planet. They still used chemical rockets to reach their moon. Their weapons were primitive kinetic projectiles. They had not even developed proper energy shields. "How long did it take us to conquer the Vorthan system?" Kethvar asked. 17 minutes, Admiral," Thessica replied immediately. "And the Calyx worlds?" 23 minutes, Admiral." Kethvar smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Those species had energy weapons and basic shield technology. These humans have nothing. I predict we will have their surrender in under 10 minutes." The bridge crew shared confident looks. They had good reason to be confident. The Zephyrian Empire controlled 1,000 worlds. Their technology was advanced beyond anything most species could imagine. Their ships could travel faster than light. Their weapons could destroy entire cities with single shots, and their shields could stop almost any attack. "Open a communication channel to the human world," Kethvar ordered. A young officer at the communications station pressed several buttons. "Channel open, Admiral." Kethvar stood and straightened his uniform. This was his favorite part. The moment when a species realized they were about to become part of something much greater than themselves. "Humans of Earth," he began, his voice being transmitted across the vastness of space. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. You are now under the authority of the Zephyrian Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our great civilization. You will submit to Imperial rule immediately. Resistance is futile. You have seen our fleet. You know you cannot stand against us. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with the mercy befitting new Imperial citizens. Refuse, and your world will be taken by force. You have 1 hour to respond." He gestured to the communications officer who closed the channel. Now came the waiting. Kethvar had given this same speech hundreds of times. Sometimes the species tried to bargain. Sometimes they begged. Sometimes they cried. But they all surrendered in the end. "Admiral," the communications officer called, out after several minutes. "We're receiving a response from Earth." "Put it through," Kethvar said, settling back into his chair. The response was short, just one word, spoken in a calm human voice. "No." Kethvar blinked. "What did they say?" "They said no, Admiral. Just no?" "Yes, Admiral. Just the word no." Silence filled the bridge. The crew exchanged confused glances. This had never happened before. Every species, when faced with the full might of the Imperial fleet, had at least tried to negotiate. They had asked for time, or mercy, or some kind of terms. None had ever simply said no. "Perhaps it's a translation error," suggested Thessica. Their language might not translate properly. Kethvar considered this. Run a full language analysis. Make sure our translation systems are working correctly. The communications officer worked for several minutes. Translation systems are functioning perfectly, Admiral. The human language is simple and direct. They said no in their common tongue. English. The meaning is clear. Send the message again, Kethvar ordered. Perhaps they did not understand. The Admiral repeated his demand for surrender. Again, the response came back quickly. Again, it was just one word, no. This time, Kethvar felt a flicker of annoyance. These humans were being foolish. Did they not understand what they were facing? Did they think their primitive technology could stand against the might of the Empire? Show them, he said. Admiral, fire a warning shot. Destroy one of their artificial satellites. Show them what our weapons can do. Yes, Admiral. One of the smaller ships in the fleet fired a single energy beam toward Earth. The beam struck an old communications satellite orbiting the planet. The satellite vanished in a brief flash of light. Send the message again, Kethvar commanded. This time, the response took longer. When it came, it was different. A human voice, male this time, speaking with what sounded like amusement. Was that supposed to impress us? Kethvar stood up from his chair. What did he say? He asked if that was supposed to impress them, Admiral. The bridge was quiet. Too quiet. Kethvar felt something he had not experienced in decades of conquest. Uncertainty. Run a deep scan of their system, he ordered. I want to know everything about their defenses, their ships, their weapons, their technology. Everything. The scanning officer worked at his station. Admiral, the scans are strange. Strange how? We're detecting very few ships. Most appear to be simple cargo vessels or small exploration craft. No military vessels of significant size. No orbital defense platforms. No energy shields around their world. Then what are they thinking? Kethvar demanded. Are they insane? Do they think they can fight us with cargo ships? Perhaps it's a cultural thing, Thessica suggested. Some species prefer to die fighting rather than live under Imperial rule. Kethvar shook his head. No, species is that foolish. Not when faced with odds like these. He looked out at the blue planet ahead of them. Something was wrong. He could feel it. In all his years of conquest, he had learned to trust his instincts. And right now, those instincts were telling him that this was not going to be as simple as he had thought. Move the fleet forward, he ordered. Battle formation. If these humans want a fight, we'll give them one. But I want to be ready for anything. Yes, Admiral. The massive fleet began to move deeper into the solar system. 50,000 ships, engines glowing like stars, advancing on a small blue world whose people had dared to say no to the greatest military force in the galaxy. As they moved forward, Kethvar stared at Earth through the viewing window. The planet looked so peaceful, so harmless. But something about that simple no bothered him more than he wanted to admit. Soon he would understand why. The Imperial fleet moved through the solar system like a moving city of metal and death. Admiral Kethvar watched from his command bridge as they passed the outer planets. First Pluto, then Neptune, then Uranus. Each world was scanned and found to be empty of life or defenses. Still no sign of military activity, reported the scanning officer. The humans appear to have no defensive positions on any of the outer worlds. Kethvar nodded, but his unease was growing. Something was wrong with the intelligence reports they had received. The scouts who had surveyed this system had described a primitive species barely capable of spaceflight. But as they moved deeper into the system, he was seeing things that didn't match those reports. Stop the fleet, he commanded. I want a detailed scan of everything in this system. The massive fleet came to a halt near Saturn. The scanning teams went to work, their instruments, probing every planet, every moon, every asteroid. Admiral, called the chief scanning officer, her voice uncertain. I'm getting some strange readings. What kind of strange readings? Well, sir, Their moon. Earth's moon. It's not natural. Kethvar walked over to the scanning station. What do you mean, not natural? The density is all wrong, Admiral. The surface appears to be covered in natural rock and dust, but underneath there are massive metal structures. It's hollow, sir. The entire moon is hollow and filled with machinery. Show me. The officer brought up a three-dimensional image of Earth's moon. On the surface, it looked normal. Gray rock, craters, dust. But the scan went deeper, showing what lay beneath. The moon was indeed hollow, and inside was a structure unlike anything Kethvar had ever seen. Massive generators, weapon systems, and other technology that their scanners couldn't fully identify. How did our scouts miss this? Kethvar demanded. The surface layer is perfect camouflage, Admiral. Unless you scan very deeply, it appears to be a normal moon. Whoever built this wanted it to look natural. Kethvar felt his scales tingle with worry. This changed everything. A hollowed-out moon filled with unknown technology was not the work of a primitive species. What about Mars? He asked. Another officer spoke up. Mars is even stranger, Admiral. Our deep scans show extensive underground cities. The entire planet appears to be inhabited, but all the settlements are underground. The surface looks dead, but beneath it what? Beneath it is one of the most advanced industrial complexes we've ever seen. Factories, power plants, mining operations, the entire planet has been turned into a massive production facility. Kethvar's hands gripped the edges of the scanning console. Show me the asteroid belt. The display changed to show the region between Mars and Jupiter where the asteroid belt should be. Should be, but wasn't. Admiral, the scanning officer said, quietly, the asteroid belt is mostly gone. What do you mean, gone? Mined out, sir. Almost every asteroid has been harvested. The metal and minerals are gone. We're detecting only small rocks and debris where there should be millions of asteroids. Where did all that material go? Unknown, Admiral. There's no sign of it anywhere in the system. Kethvar stood silent for a long moment, processing this information. A species advanced enough to hollow out their moon, turn an entire planet into a factory, and mine out an entire asteroid belt was not primitive. Not even close to primitive. What about their ships? He asked. Our scans showed only a few cargo vessels. That's still what we're detecting, Admiral. A few dozen ships, all appearing to be civilian craft. No military vessels. That makes no sense, Kethvar said. A species with this level of technology should have a space fleet. Where are their warships? Commander Theseka approached. Perhaps they don't have warships, Admiral. Perhaps they are a peaceful species that focuses on industry and construction, rather than military power. Kethvar looked at her. You don't hollow out a moon and fill it with unknown technology if you're a peaceful species, Commander. He turned back to the scanning station. I want you to scan everything again. Use our most powerful sensors. Look for anything we might have missed. Cloaked ships, hidden bases, anything. The scanning teams worked for an hour. The results were the same. Earth's moon was a massive disguised structure. Mars was an underground industrial world. The asteroid belt had been stripped clean, but there were still no visible military forces. Admiral, the communications officer called out, we're receiving another transmission from Earth. Put it through. This time, the voice was female, speaking the same calm tone they had heard before. Imperial Fleet, this is Director Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Coordination. We notice you've stopped moving. Are you having technical difficulties? The bridge fell silent. Terran Defense Coordination? The humans had known they were there all along, had been watching them scan the system. Respond, Kethvar ordered. Tell them we are proceeding as planned. The communications officer sent the message. The response came back quickly. Admiral Kethvar, We suggest you turn your fleet around and leave our system. This is your only warning. Kethavar felt his blood run cold. They knew his name. They had been listening to his communications. How long had they been watching? How do they know my name? He demanded. Unknown, Admiral. Our communications are encrypted. Not encrypted enough, apparently. Kethavar began pacing the bridge. How long have they been monitoring us? Probably since we arrived, Thessica said quietly. Or longer, added the scanning officer. If they have the technology to disguise an entire moon, they might have sensors we can't detect. Kethavar stopped pacing. A horrible thought was forming in his mind. What if, he said slowly, what if our intelligence reports were wrong? What if this species is not primitive at all? But Admiral, Thessica protested, our scouts reported that they use chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. What if they wanted our scouts to see chemical rockets and kinetic weapons? Kethavar asked. What if they've been hiding their real technology? The idea was terrifying. If the humans had been deliberately hiding their true capabilities, then everything the Empire knew about them was false. The intelligence reports, the tactical assessments, the entire invasion plan, all of it based on lies. Admiral, the scanning officer said urgently, I'm detecting massive power sources throughout the system. Where? Everywhere, sir. Jupiter has energy readings that don't match a gas giant. Saturn's rings are giving off artificial energy signatures. There are power sources in the outer asteroid fields, in the comet clouds, even in empty space. Kethavar stared at the display showing their solar system. Red dots appeared everywhere the scanners detected unknown energy sources. There were hundreds of them, thousands. What are we looking at? He whispered. I think, the scanning officer said quietly. We're looking at a solar system that has been turned into a fortress. The bridge was silent, except for the humming of the ship's systems. 50,000 ships that had conquered nearly 1,000 worlds were suddenly feeling very small and very alone. Admiral, Thessica said, what are your orders? Kethavar looked at the blue planet ahead of them, such a small, beautiful world. But now he was beginning to understand that everything he thought he knew about it was wrong. Continue forward, he said finally, but slowly, and keep all weapons ready. The fleet began moving again, deeper into a system that was looking less like a simple conquest and more like a trap with every passing moment. The Imperial fleet crossed Neptune's orbit at half speed, every sensor active, every weapon charged and ready. Admiral Kethavar stood at the center of his bridge, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. The energy readings were getting stronger as they moved deeper into the system. Distance to Earth? He asked. 4 billion kilometers and closing, Admiral, replied the navigation officer. Any change in the energy readings? They're getting stronger, sir. Much stronger. Kethavar was about to respond when alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed on every console. Report! He shouted over the noise. Admiral! The scanning officer yelled, his voice filled with panic. The empty space around us! It's not empty! What do you mean? Massive objects decloaking, sir. They're everywhere! The main viewing screen lit up as hundreds of enormous structures suddenly became visible around the fleet. They appeared out of nowhere, shimmering into existence like ghosts becoming solid. Each structure was easily 10 times larger. Then Kethavar's flagship. How many? Kethavar demanded. Counting now, Admiral. 200. 500. Still counting, sir. The structures were unlike anything in the Empire's databases. They looked organic, almost alive, with flowing curves and surfaces that seemed to shift and move. But the energy readings from them were massive. These weren't space stations or platforms. They were weapons, weapons designed to kill entire fleets. Admiral, another officer called out, ships decloaking throughout the system. The tactical display exploded with new contacts. Ships appeared everywhere, not dozens, not hundreds, millions. They surrounded the Imperial fleet from every direction, above and below, left and right. Each ship was small compared to the Imperial vessels, but there were so many of them. "How many ships?" Kethvar asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Computer is still counting, Admiral. Current estimate, 12 million ships and rising." 12 million. The Empire's entire fleet, gathered from across 1,000 worlds, numbered only 200,000 ships. These humans had 12 million ships just in this one system. "Admiral," Commander Thessica said quietly, "I think we made a mistake." But the surprises weren't over. The human ships moved like nothing Kethvar had ever seen. They didn't fly through space like normal vessels. They seemed to dance through it, changing direction instantly, accelerating to impossible speeds without any sign of engines or thrust. "How are they moving like that?" he asked. "Unknown, Admiral. They appear to be bending space around themselves. Our physics models can't explain it." A new voice filled the bridge. It was Director Chen again, her calm tone unchanged despite the massive display of force around them. "Admiral Kethvar, you are now surrounded by the Terran Home Defense Fleet. This is your final warning. Leave our system immediately, or we will consider you a hostile force and respond accordingly." Kethvar found his voice. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said you were primitive. You use chemical rockets, kinetic weapons. You haven't even left your planet." "Your intelligence was correct, Admiral. We do use chemical rockets. We also use them to launch our children to the stars for summer vacation. We do use kinetic weapons. We use them to move mountains when we're redecorating planets. And you're right. Most of us haven't left our planet. Most of us prefer to stay home and garden." The casual tone in her voice was more terrifying than any threat. She was talking about moving mountains and traveling to other stars like they were everyday activities. "You have been watching us," Kethvar said. "Oh yes, we've been watching you for quite some time. We know about your conquest of the Vorthon system. 23 minutes, wasn't it? And the Calyx worlds in 17 minutes? Very impressive. We've been looking forward to seeing how you do against a prepared enemy." "Prepared?" Kethvar looked around at the millions of ships surrounding his fleet. "How long have you been preparing?" "Oh, we started preparing about 300 years ago, when our scouts first detected your empire. We've been watching you conquer world after world, studying your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. Did you really think we would just wait for you to show up?" The bridge crew exchanged terrified looks. 300 years! The humans had been preparing for this fight for 3 centuries. "Admiral," the scanning officer called out, his voice shaking. "I'm detecting weapons charging throughout the human fleet." "What kind of weapons?" I don't know, sir. They're unlike anything in our database. The energy signatures are off our scales." Kethvar made a decision. "All ships, raise shields and prepare to fire. Target the largest human vessels." "Admiral." "Wait," Thessica said urgently. "Maybe we should consider negotiating." "We are the Zephyrian Empire," Kethvar shouted. "We do not negotiate with primitives." "All ships ready to fire, Admiral," the weapons officer reported. "Fire!" The Imperial fleet opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of energy beams and projectiles streaked through space toward the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. The human response was immediate and devastating. The energy beams from the Imperial ships simply stopped. They didn't hit shields. They didn't bounce off armor. They just stopped, as if space itself had become solid. The projectiles slowed down and then reversed direction, flying back toward the ships that had fired them. "What just happened?" Kethvar demanded. "Admiral, their ships appear to be manipulating space-time itself. They're making our weapons ineffective by changing the laws of physics around them." Then the humans fired back. A single human ship, no, larger than an Imperial destroyer, fired a weapon that defied description. There was no beam, no projectile, no explosion. One moment, an entire Imperial squadron of 50 ships was there. The next moment, it was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged. simply gone as if it had never existed. "Where did Squadron 7 go?" Kethvar screamed. They're not there anymore, Admiral. Our sensors show empty space where they used to be." "That's impossible. Another human ship fired. Another Imperial squadron vanished. Then another. And another." "Admiral!" the weapons officer shouted. "Their weapons appear to be deleting matter from existence. They're not destroying our ships, they're unmaking them." "How is that possible?" "It's not possible, sir. Not according to any known science." The human fleet began moving closer, and their ships were doing things that hurt to watch. Some of them folded space around themselves and appeared instantly in new locations. Others seemed to exist in multiple places at once. One ship appeared to be flying backward through time, undoing damage as it moved. "Admiral," Director Chen's voice came through the communications again, still perfectly calm. "You're wasting our time. We have dinner plans." "How are you doing this?" Kethvar asked, his voice breaking. "Oh, this is just our home defense force, nothing fancy. We save the really advanced ships for when we go visiting." Another squadron vanished, then 5 more. The Imperial fleet, which had seemed so massive and unstoppable just minutes ago, was being erased from existence by weapons that shouldn't be possible. "Admiral," Thessica said quietly, "we need to surrender. The Empire does not surrender. The Empire has never faced anything like this." As if to prove her point, 10 more squadrons disappeared in the space of a heartbeat. The humans weren't even trying hard. They were playing with the Imperial fleet like a cat playing with mice. "Admiral," the communications officer said, his voice shaking, "I'm receiving reports from ships throughout the fleet. They're asking for permission to surrender." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him with fear in their eyes. Outside, the greatest military force in galactic history was being casually dismantled by a species they had thought was primitive. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked quietly. 40% of the fleet, Admiral, and the rate is increasing. 40% in less than 5 minutes. "Admiral," Director Chen's voice came again, "we're getting bored. Please make a decision." Kethvar closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was looking at a view screen filled with impossible ships using impossible weapons to do impossible things to his fleet. "Open a channel," he said quietly. "Channel open, Admiral. This is Admiral Kethvar. We surrender." The moment Admiral Kethvar spoke the words of surrender, something impossible happened throughout the galaxy. On 847 worlds that the Zephyrian Empire had conquered, humans who had lived there for generations suddenly stopped pretending to be harmless. On the industrial world of Vorth Prime, a human trader named Marcus had been selling simple metal goods to the Zephyrian military for 20 years. As Kethvar's surrender echoed across space through quantum communication, Marcus put down his simple tools and picked up a device that looked like a small cube. He pressed one side of it. Every Zephyrian military base on Vorth Prime lost power instantly. Their weapons stopped working. Their ships couldn't start. Their communication systems went dead. Marcus and 300 other humans on the planet walked calmly to the paralyzed military installations and informed the confused Zephyrian soldiers that they were now prisoners of the Terran expansion force. On the pleasure world of Calax 7, a human woman named Dr. Sarah Kim had been working as a simple medical assistant for 15 years. The Zephyrians thought humans made good nurses because they were gentle and caring. Dr. Kim had treated thousands of Zephyrian patients, always with a smile, always helpful. When the signal came, Dr. Kim stopped smiling. She walked to the planetary governor's palace, where she had been treating the governor's sick child just the day before. The guards knew her and let her pass without question. She entered the governor's office and calmly informed him that his world now belonged to Earth. When he laughed and reached for his weapon, Dr. Kim touched a small device on her wrist. The governor and every Zephyrian official on the planet fell asleep instantly, their minds overwhelmed by technology they couldn't understand. On the military fortress world of Thex Station, a human janitor named William Chen had been cleaning the floors of the Empire's most secure base for 10 years. He had cleaned the Admiral's office, the weapons storage areas, the command centers. Everyone trusted him. He was just a harmless human cleaner. When the signal reached him, William stopped cleaning. He walked to the main computer core of the base, the most secure location on the planet, guarded by 100 soldiers and protected by energy shields that could stop anything. William pulled out what looked like a simple cleaning cloth and wiped it across the shield generator. The shields vanished. He walked through the security doors, which opened for him automatically. When the guards tried to stop him, their weapons simply stopped working. Within minutes, William was standing in the command center, calmly informing the base commander that Thex Station was now under human control. These scenes played out on every world the Empire had ever conquered. Humans who had lived among the Zephyrians for decades, who had been trusted as merchants, doctors, teachers, servants, and laborers, suddenly revealed themselves to be something else entirely. They weren't refugees or immigrants or peaceful traders. They were advanced scouts. Back in Earth's solar system, Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as reports flooded in from across the Empire. Every world, every military base, every important installation was falling to humans who had been hiding in plain sight for generations. "How many humans are out there?" he asked Director Chen during a communication. "Oh, about 40 million, she replied casually. "We've been slowly spreading across the galaxy for the past 300 years. Usually we send small groups to each world. A few dozen here, a few hundred there. Nothing threatening. Just enough to blend in and learn about your society. You've been spying on us for 3 centuries? Spying is such an ugly word, Admiral. We prefer to think of it as cultural exchange. Your people were quite welcoming, actually. Very trusting. Almost too trusting, really." The communications officer turned to Kethvar. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim territories. Human ships are appearing there as well." "What kind of ships?" "Military vessels, sir. Hundreds of them. They're moving toward Imperial." "Strongholds." Director Chen's voice came through the speakers again. "Oh, those would be our children coming home for dinner. We called them back when we detected your fleet approaching. They've been exploring beyond the rim for the past 50 years. Nice kids, very eager to meet new friends." "How many ships?" Kethvar asked weakly. "From the rim territories?" "Only about 50,000. The real fleet is still out there, mapping the far galaxies. We should have them back in a few months if you'd like to meet them too. 50,000 ships beyond the rim, more fleets in other galaxies." Kethvar's head was spinning. The Empire controlled 1,000 worlds and had a fleet of 200,000 ships. They had thought themselves the masters of the galaxy, but the humans had been quietly spreading through space for centuries, building fleets and bases and colonies that the Empire had never even imagined. "Sir," his communications officer said urgently, "I'm receiving a priority message from Imperial Command." "Put it through." The voice of Supreme Admiral Vorthax, the highest military commander in the Empire, filled the bridge. He sounded terrified. "All the fleets. This is Imperial Command. We are under attack on every front. Unknown human forces have appeared throughout the Empire. All military installations are reporting system failures. All government centers are compromised. The humans have somehow disabled our technology across 1,000 worlds simultaneously." The message continued. "They are not using weapons. They are using some kind of technology that simply shuts down our equipment. Our ships cannot fly. Our weapons cannot fire. Our communication systems are failing. This is not a military defeat. This is complete technological domination." Kethvar sank into his command chair. "How is this possible?" "We've had a long time to study your technology, Admiral," Director Chen explained patiently. 300 years of having our people work on your ships, in your factories, in your research centers. We know your technology better than you do. We know exactly how to turn it off. But your people, they seemed so primitive, so harmless. Oh, they are harmless, Admiral. Most of our people are gardeners and artists and philosophers. We prefer creating things to destroying them. But when someone threatens our home, we can be very focused. The tactical display showed that the entire Imperial fleet was now surrounded by what appeared to be solid walls of human ships. Millions upon millions of vessels, each one demonstrating technology that broke every known law of physics. Admiral, the scanning officer reported, I'm detecting more ships arriving. More human ships? Yes, sir. But these are different. Much larger. New contacts appeared on the display, ships that dwarfed even the largest Imperial vessels, ships the size of small moons, but moving with the grace of dancers. Oh, good, Director Chen said cheerfully. The deep space explorers are starting to arrive. These are our long-range research vessels. They've been studying the galaxy's structure for the past century. Lovely people. Very curious about alien cultures. One of the massive ships moved closer to Kethvar's flagship. As it approached, the ship's hull seemed to become transparent, and Kethvar could see inside. The interior was filled with what looked like gardens and parks and flowing water. Humans could be seen walking along tree-lined paths, children playing in open meadows, families having picnics under artificial suns. That's a research vessel? Kethvar asked. Oh yes, our scientists like to travel in comfort. That particular ship has been mapping black holes for the past 50 years. The crew includes some of the galaxy's leading experts on stellar engineering. Stellar engineering? Yes, moving stars around, adjusting galactic rotation rates, that sort of thing. Fascinating work, really. They recently helped stabilize a collapsing galaxy cluster in Andromeda, saved about 40 billion civilizations. The natives were quite grateful. Kethvar stared at the peaceful scene inside the massive ship. Children playing in gardens, while their parents casually rearranged stars and saved entire galaxies. What are you people? He whispered. We're humans, Admiral. We're gardeners who learned to garden on a galactic scale. We're teachers who decided the universe needed better lessons. We're parents who want our children to have room to grow. And you've been hiding all of this? Not hiding, Admiral. Waiting. We needed to understand the galaxy before we decided what to do with it. Your empire provided an excellent opportunity to study large-scale civilization management. Thank you for that. The bridge fell silent except for the continuing reports of Imperial facilities falling throughout the galaxy. An empire that had taken 1,000 years to build was being dismantled in minutes by a species that had pretended to be primitive. What happens now? Kethvar asked. Now? Now we have dinner. After that, we'll start the real work. 847 worlds is a good start for our expansion plans, don't you think? Kethvar felt his blood freeze. Your expansion plans? Oh yes, Admiral. We've been gardeners for so long we're ready to try our hand at civilization building. The galaxy has so much potential. So many worlds that could be improved. So many species that could benefit from proper guidance. The Admiral looked around his bridge at his terrified crew, then at the view screen showing millions of impossible human ships surrounding his fleet. You're going to conquer the galaxy? He said. Quietly. Conquer is such an ugly word, Admiral. We prefer to think of it as 6 minutes and 37 seconds. That was how long it had taken for the entire Zephyrian Empire to fall. Admiral Kethvar stared at the chronometer on his bridge, unable to believe what he was seeing. 1,000-year-old empire, the greatest military force in galactic history, had been defeated in less than 7 minutes. His flagship was now motionless in space, its engines disabled by technology he couldn't understand. Around him, the remains of his fleet drifted helplessly. Not destroyed. The humans had been very careful about that. Every ship was intact, every crew member alive. They had simply been turned off. "Admiral," Commander Thessica said quietly, "we're receiving another transmission from Earth." Kethvar nodded wearily. "Put it through." Director Chen's face appeared on the main screen. She looked exactly like what she was, a middle-aged human woman with kind eyes and laugh lines around her mouth. She could have been someone's grandmother. It was hard to believe she had just orchestrated the fall of an interstellar empire. "Hello again, Admiral," she said warmly. "I hope your crew is comfortable. We've made sure your life support systems are working perfectly." "What do you want from us?" Kethavar asked. "Want? Oh, we don't want anything from you, Admiral. We want something for you." "I don't understand," Director Chen smiled. "You will. But first, let me explain what just happened. You see, Admiral, your empire was never really in control of those 847 worlds. Not truly. Your people were the government, yes, and your military kept order. But humans have been quietly building the real infrastructure for centuries." "What do you mean?" "Who do you think built your power plants, Admiral? Who maintained your computers? Who grew your food? Who taught your children? Who fixed your machines? When they broke? Humans. Always humans. We're very good at making ourselves useful." Kethavar thought about this. It was true. Humans had been everywhere in the Empire, doing the jobs that kept civilization running. But they had always seemed so harmless, so grateful to be allowed to live among the Zephyrians. "You were never refugees," he said slowly. "Oh, some of us were, in the beginning. But mostly, we were colonists, settlers, advance teams preparing. The galaxy for our children. Preparing it how?" Director Chen's expression became more serious. "Admiral, your empire was built on conquest and fear. Species were forced to join whether they wanted to or not. Worlds were stripped of resources to feed the Imperial war machine. Billions of people lived under military occupation. That is how empires work," Kethavar said defensively. "That's how your empire worked. Ours will be different." "Your empire? Oh, yes. We're going to keep all 847 worlds. But we're going to change how they're managed." On the screen behind Director Chen, images began appearing. Kethvar saw worlds he recognized, planets that had been part of the Empire, but they looked different now, cleaner, more peaceful. On Vorth Prime, the factories were still running, but the black smoke that had always filled the sky was gone. On Calyx 7, the cities looked the same, but there were parks and gardens where there had been military compounds. "This is what's happening right now," Director Chen explained. "Our people are introducing some improvements, better power systems that don't pollute, food production methods that actually feed people instead of just creating profit, medical technology that works for everyone, not just the wealthy. You're changing our worlds. We're improving them. The people who live there will have better lives. Isn't that what a government should do?" Kethvar watched the images scroll by. The changes were dramatic, but the people in the pictures looked happy. He had never seen such expressions on the faces of Imperial citizens. "What about my people?" he asked. "What about the Zephyrians?" "They'll be fine, Admiral. Better than fine. We're not planning any revenge or punishment. Your species will be full citizens of the new galactic community. In fact, we'd like to offer you a job." "A job?" "Your people are excellent administrators and military strategists. We could use those skills. The galaxy is a big place, and there are many species that still need help organizing themselves into peaceful societies. You want us to work for you? We want you to work with us. There's a difference." Commander Thessica spoke up. "What if we refuse?" Director Chen looked surprised. "Refuse? Why would you refuse? We're offering you the chance to help build something better than what you had before. Your empire was constantly at war, constantly conquering new worlds to feed its military machine. Doesn't that sound exhausting?" Kethvar thought about this. It was exhausting. He had spent his entire adult life fighting wars, conquering planets, managing rebellions. When was the last time he had done something that wasn't about conflict? What would we do? He asked. Explore, learn, create. The galaxy is full of wonders, Admiral. There are civilizations out there that have developed amazing art, beautiful music, incredible philosophy. There are scientific mysteries that have puzzled researchers for millions of years. There are entire regions of space that no one has ever visited. The images on the screen changed to show things Kethvar had never seen. Cities made of living crystal that sang in harmony with the wind. Space whales the size of moons dancing through nebulae. Ancient monuments built by species that had disappeared long before the Empire was born. This is what's out there, Admiral. This is what we want to explore and protect and learn from. Wouldn't you rather be discovering these wonders instead of destroying them? Kethvar found himself nodding. When had the Empire ever created anything beautiful? When had they ever discovered something amazing and decided to preserve it instead of conquering it? How do we know you won't just replace our empire with your own? Thessica asked. Because that's not how we work, Director Chen replied. Admiral, how many humans do you think there are in the galaxy? I don't know. Millions? Try again. Hundreds of millions? There are exactly 47 million humans in the galaxy right now, Admiral. That includes everyone, our deep space explorers, our cultural specialists, our scientists, our families, all of us. Kethvar stared at her. 47 million, that's all? That's all. We're not trying to take over the galaxy, Admiral. There aren't enough of us. We're trying to organize it. I don't understand. Think of us as gardeners, Admiral. A gardener doesn't replace all the plants in a garden. A gardener helps each plant grow into the best version of itself. That's what we want to do with galactic civilization. And if species don't want your help, then they don't get it. We're not going to force anyone to accept our guidance, but we are going to make sure that no one gets to build another empire like yours. No more conquering peaceful worlds. No more forcing species to join galactic governments they don't want to be part of. How will you enforce that? Director Chen smiled, and for the first time, Kethvar saw something hard in her expression. The same way we just enforced it with you, Admiral. We'll watch, we'll wait. And if someone tries to build another war machine, we'll turn it off. You'll always be watching, we'll always be gardening, and good gardeners always watch their gardens. The screen changed to show Earth itself. Kethvar could see the blue and green world that had seemed so small and helpless just hours ago. Now he understood what he was really looking at. Not a planet, a fortress, a base of operations for a species that had quietly become the most powerful force in the galaxy. What happens to us now? He asked. Now you go home, Admiral, you and your crews. Your ships will be repaired and upgraded with some of our technology. Your worlds will be improved. Your people will be offered chances to explore and create instead of just conquering. Just like that? Just like that? Oh, and Admiral, when you get home, tell your people that the humans said hello. Tell them we're looking forward to working together. The transmission ended. Kethvar sat in his command chair, staring at the empty screen. Around him, his crew was silent. Sir, the navigation officer said quietly, our engines are coming back, online. Course, Admiral, asked the helmsman. Kethvar looked around his bridge one more time, then at the view screen showing the impossible human fleet that had defeated them so easily. Set course for home, he said. I think we have a lot of explaining to do. As the Imperial fleet began its journey back to Zephyrian space, Admiral Kethvar found himself thinking about gardens, about the difference between conquering and cultivating, about the possibility of building something instead of just taking it behind them. Earth continued its peaceful orbit around its star, looking exactly like the small, harmless world they had come to conquer. But Kethvar now knew the truth. It wasn't the center of a primitive civilization. It was the center of the galaxy's new garden, and the gardeners were very, very good at their job.